So I'm a little bit behind on this story, but I did want to talk about it. I think this came out Friday, the 26th. Top UN court orders Israel to prevent genocide in Gaza, but stop short of ordering ceasefire. The United Nations top court on Friday ordered Israel to do all it can to prevent death, destruction, and any acts of genocide in Gaza. But the panel stopped short of ordering an end to the military offensive that has laid waste to the Palestinian enclave. In a ruling that will keep Israel under the legal lens for years to come, the court offered little other comfort to Israeli leaders in a genocide case brought by South Africa that goes to the core of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. The court's half-dozen orders will be difficult to achieve without some sort of ceasefire or pause in the fighting. The court is acutely aware of the extent of the human tragedy that is unfolding in the region and is deeply concerned about the continuing loss of life and human suffering, Court President Joan E. Donoghue said. The ruling amounted to an overwhelming rebuke of Israel's wartime conduct and added to mounting international pressure to halt the nearly 4-month-old offensive that has killed more than 26,000 Palestinians, decimated vast swaths of Gaza, and driven nearly 85% of its 2.3 million people from their homes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the fact that the court was willing to discuss the genocide charges was a mark of shame that will not be erased for generations. He vowed to press ahead with the war. The court ruled that Israel must do all it can to prevent genocide, including refraining from harming or killing Palestinians. It also ruled that Israel must urgently get basic aid to Gaza and that the country should punish any incitement to genocide. Among other measures, the panel told Israel to submit a report on steps taken within a month. Palestinians and their supporters said the court took an important step towards holding Israel accountable. The Foreign Ministry of the internationally backed Palestinian self-rule government in the West Bank said the ruling should serve as a wake-up call for Israel and actors who enabled its entrenched impunity, in apparent reference to the United States, Israel's chief ally. Yuval Shani, a law professor at Hebrew University and senior fellow of the Israel Democracy Institute, said the court's decision was not as bad as Israel feared it would be. It would not fundamentally alter the way the military conducts the war. The greatest fear is that the court could ask Israel to stop the war, Shani said, describing the decision as something that Israel can live with. Okay, so I hear a lot of people talking about what a great decision this is by the International Court of Justice. And I mean, in a worst case scenario situation, which is basically where we're at, you got to take what you can get. I understand that. This is at least putting, some puzzle pieces on the table. So it will be in people's minds, and potentially if Israel doesn't stop its actions, then there could be consequences in the future. At least that's what we can hope for. But there's one thing that the court could have done that it didn't, and the article sort of talks about that too. Call for a ceasefire. Call for a ceasefire. Like I said, and I'll show it again. 26,000 people killed, I think. Palestinians killed. And 85% of its 2.3 million people have been driven away from their homes. Call a ceasefire. This is... You can't say, Israel has to prevent genocide from occurring, and then not tell Israel to agree to a ceasefire. Because if they're not going to agree to a ceasefire, then the genocide's not going to stop. Israel's not it will claim that it's distinguishing between civilians and Hamas lackeys, but they're not. They're not. This is collective punishment. This is collective punishment that has gone on far longer than it ever should have. And the court should have demanded a ceasefire. So, to some extent, this is shameful on the part of the IJC, just not for the reason Netanyahu thinks it's shameful. He thinks it's shameful because, they're trying to suggest that his, settler colonialist project might not be the best idea after all. And Netanyahu's just giving them the middle finger, as you would expect. But no, this when I heard the story, it actually really irritated me because it's just such small potatoes. Like I said, maybe, just maybe, this will be the beginning of something greater. But without calling for an actual ceasefire, I don't see what the point is. It feels to me like window dressing. It feels to me like almost putting on a show, saying you're going to do something and do something very lukewarm so you can say, I did something, without ever actually doing something. Because, I mean, the Israel-Palestinian conflict has been going on for a long time, but it's not going to be solved. The Palestinians aren't going to be safe and secure in their own homes. They're not going to have a government that cares about them without a ceasefire. And I worry for the worst. I mean, even with a ceasefire, Netanyahu says, "Oh yeah, no Palestinian state, even when the war ends. To heck with you." So, like I said, we're basically in the worst case scenario here, and it keeps me on edge on a daily basis. It's hard to, sit around when you know all this carnage is going on. It's partly why I wanted to talk about it on this channel. Not that this is doing much, but so yeah, the International Court of Justice, it's kind of let me down. They need to call for a ceasefire immediately, no questions asked.